Our entire lives, we have been told that if we work hard, we will achieve everything that we want. In sociology, we refer to this as meritocracy. But when we have a society that places so much importance on education to the point where it can determine every aspect of our lives, for example, the university we go to, the kind of job we have, the company we work for, the social circle we involve ourselves in, it can be hard to believe in this notion that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed within society. Instead, education has always fostered competition between our peers. Our academic performance and examination results often dictate future opportunities, and sometimes the competitive environment drives students to strive for excellence, but sometimes that's at the expense of their well being. However, the pursuit of academic success can mask the disparities between the students, reinforcing social and economic inequalities within the education system. Hi, I'm Rizwana, and welcome to the Sociology Corner. Today's video will explore the impact social stratification has on education in South Korean society. South Korea is renowned for its rigorous academic standards and testocracy, a term that has been used to describe a societal or education system where high stakes standardized testing plays a dominant role in the education system. As a result, South Korea has become one of the top performing OECD countries in reading, literacy, mathematics, and sciences in the world, ranking the country ninth overall. This comes from South Korea's reformation in education, which began in the 1980s after the country saw a rapid economic growth in the industrialization and technology sector, meaning the country had to accommodate and sustain this growth with a highly skilled and educated workforce. It is estimated that in 2023, the South Korean government spent around 4.3% of its GDP on education, which is roughly around 67 billion pounds. In South Korean culture, education holds an extremely high value, leading to the country gaining a reputation of having excessively tremendous standards in the sector, which has gotten the system a nickname, education fever. It is estimated that South Korean students study more than double the average students worldwide, averaging around a whopping 12 hours of studying every day. Education fever originally stemmed from an old Chinese belief system, Confucianism, which has existed for over 2,500 years. This system has embedded itself within South Korean society, influencing its culture, shaping its educational priorities, social hierarchies, work ethic, and family and communal values. Confucianism is best understood as an ethical guide to living, as the system was based on the philosophy of social success being the end goal for education, and in order to attain this goal, you must be a model student. However, with so much emphasis being placed on education, as sociologists, we have to wonder what are the social impacts and the impact it has on social mobility. Higher education is an overwhelmingly serious issue in South Korean society, where it's viewed as one of the fundamental capstones of South Korean life. In 2023, approximately 73% of high school graduates enrolled in higher educational institutions, comparing that to the global rate of just 42%, reflecting the values of Confucianism and emphasizing its role as a cornerstone for academic excellence and development. Like many other cultures, academic success is often a source of pride for families and within South Korean society, and many view success in education as the main gateway of social mobility for themselves and their family, paving the way towards being middle class. The rate of poverty in 2022 was recorded at 16.7%, and in sociology, we view poverty as a vicious cycle which leads to a limited opportunities for upward mobility. So, As financial struggles continue, they further hinder the ability to invest in better education and opportunities, ensuring the cycle of poverty remains unbroken for the lower class. This is exemplified by South Koreans spending a lot of money on after school classes, or hagwons as it is known in South Korea, to supplement their children's learning as it is so important, regardless of the financial capabilities of the families, as they depend on their children to save them from poverty. And the only way they can do that is by getting the best education, which gets them into the best schools and inevitably to the best jobs. In 2023, the average Korean student spent 410,000 won a month on hagwons, and it was noticed that the highest earning households spent 648,000 won a month, about 5 times more than the lowest earning ones. Here, we can already see the disparities between the upper and the lower class, as richer families have the privilege to spend so much on after school education for their kids, whereas poorer families have to spend their earnings and put an immense amount of pressure on their kids to succeed. But even then, the amount of money put into after school classes is not enough. But why are families investing so much into education? Well, it's because South Korea has a strict university hierarchy, as there is a saying in Korea derived from the first sounds of the prestigious university names. The three most recognized universities in South Korea are known as SKY, which consist of Seoul National University, Korea University, and Yonsei University. Unlike other cultures and countries, the university you attend in South Korea has massive ramifications on your future. Graduating from one of these universities is one of the highest honors in South Korea, which marks the ultimate level of reputation and esteem, high socioeconomic status, promising marriage prospects, and a path to a prestigious and respectable white collar professional occupation. I spoke with a student from South Korea who had told me her father, who had attended a university in the US, was ridiculed by his peers at the university he worked at as a professor, and that he was belittled by them as he did not graduate from a Sky University. This criticism wasn't the first barrier he faced, as getting a job as a professor was seen as the original challenge, as many esteemed universities in South Korea did not want him as an employee as a result of his educational background. Once he was accepted by an acclaimed university, his peers looked down on him and did not want to be around him. And this is just one of the many stories that perpetuate how much of a hierarchy the job market and educational system is in South Korea, and the significant social stratification has on the education system even after the education has been completed. So, what do Sky universities actually do? Well, Sky universities promote social stratification by reinforcing educational and economic advantages for students from affluent backgrounds, thereby perpetuating existing social hierarchies and limiting opportunities for upward mobility for those from lower socioeconomic statuses. So, I've been using the word social stratification, but what is it? Social stratification is a social hierarchy where individuals and groups are classified on the basis of wealth, occupation, education level, race, or gender. Already with Hagwons, we can see how the implications of social stratification has on economic capital, where families with higher economic resources can invest more in private tutoring and other educational supports, enhancing their children's chances of gaining admission to Sky universities. This idea of economic capital aligns with the idea of cultural capital, which can be defined by the non financial social aspects that promote social mobility beyond economic means. These assets include education, style of speech and dress, or physical appearance, which can provide social leverage in society, meaning that how we connect with people from higher socioeconomic backgrounds goes beyond the means of money. According to sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, cultural capital is a major source of social inequality. Cultural capital, in the form of educational qualifications, is used to reproduce class distinctions and perpetuate the dominant social order. This means that parents who are from a higher socioeconomic background are often more familiar with the educational system and use their cultural capital to their advantage, which helps their kids to build social networks and cultural fluency that is valued by the elite, therefore furthering the chances of their children getting into sky universities. One of the founding fathers of sociology, Karl Marx, came up with the concept of conflict theory that centers on the idea that society is in a state of perpetual conflict due to competition of limited resources. It reckons that social order is maintained by domination and power rather than consensus and conformity. Sky universities act as gatekeepers, providing access to elite positions primarily to the children of the elite. An example of this in American society are legacy students, where students whose parents attended a prestigious university are more likely to enter the school just because of their status and social capital, therefore maintaining their social and economic dominance. However, those who do manage to gain entry into these schools are not guaranteed a proficient job. This is exemplified by the criticism faced by the South Korean education system, arguing that the system is producing a mass amount of university students who are competing for a limited amount of spaces in the job market. According to the Korea Economic Research Institute, it found that people aged 25 to 34 had employment rates at just 75.2%, which is far lower than the OECD average of 82.9%. Creating so much competition in the education sector has allowed for so many graduates to end up struggling to find jobs or being too overly qualified for the jobs that are left, meaning that some graduates choose not to work or are looking for a job that fits their skill set. Much of the proportion of the economically inactive population, people who are neither employed nor in training and have given up looking for work, has been taken up by young graduates, where Korea is the third highest out of 37 OECD countries at 20.3%. What is being done about the inequalities in education? Well, the South Korean government recognizes the educational inequality that low income families face and has employed a series of programs to address the issues. Some of these policies include free childcare for all children aged 3 to 5 years old, vouchers for after school activity fees for primary and secondary age students, incentives for teachers to work in schools with higher proportions of low income students. Despite the efforts from the government and the relentless pressure to excel, the education system has created an unwarranted amount of stress for students. In 2021, studies showed that 46% of high school students in Seoul were depressed as a result of academic stress. Educator Diane Ravitch warned against modeling an educational system in which children exist either to glorify the family or to build the national economy. She argued that the happiness of South Korean children has been sacrificed and likened the country's students to cogs in a national economic machine. A low emphasis on vocational education and the stigmatization in Korea with regards to skilled trade or vocational careers have been often dismissed as DD jobs, dirty, dangerous, and demeaning, with low social standing. Moreover, since 2011, suicide has been the leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 24 in South Korea. A systemic review conducted by Biomed Central highlighted that financial difficulties and unemployment are strongly associated with suicidal thoughts and attempts, particularly among those with lower incomes and less stable employment. Recent data indicates that South Korea's suicide rate is notably high, with 25.2 deaths per 100,000 people in 2022, which is more than double the OECD average, according to the Korean Herald. Sociologist Merton Strain theory argues society endorses certain culturally approved goals like financial success or social prestige, but not everyone has access to legitimate means such as education and employment opportunities to achieve these goals. This gap between goals and means generates strain, and when individuals are unable to meet these expectations, they may resort to extreme measures, including suicide. The education system is arguably partly to blame for the decrease in the birth rate in South Korea as well. Many young South Koreans are delaying marriage and parenthood due to the financial burden of raising children, which includes the cost of private education and extracurricular activities. This economic strain is exacerbated by the highly competitive job market, which often requires extensive educational qualification from prestigious universities. Even more, teachers in South Korea are bearing the brunt of the policy changes. Researcher Kim noted that teachers who overcome standardized classroom teachers have been frustrated by limited resources and the existing school system and are now being frustrated again by recent restandardization policies. In 2023, South Korea faced a troubling surge in teacher suicides, underscoring the immense pressures and challenges conditions educators endure. By the end of August 2023, at least 14 teachers had taken their own lives. This alarming trend has sparked a national discussion on the urgent need for systemic reforms in the education sector. The debate has focused on the mistreatment of teachers by both students and parents and the inadequate support systems available to educators. Overall, South Korea's education system is highly effective in producing academically proficient students and contributing to the country's economic growth. However, it also heightens social inequalities and imposes significant pressure on students. Balancing academic rigor with mental well being and social equity remains a critical challenge for policymakers. While the country continues to make strides in the technology sector with companies such as Samsung and LG, there needs to be a revision of policy to help students and teachers with the stress of academia. There also has to be less of a stigmatization around careers that are more focused on the creative side and for the government to create fairer opportunities for low income students and to push towards creating more of a meritocratic society. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you have any questions or comments, please ask away on any of my social medias. Please also like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Also, I say this every time, but if there's any areas or case studies in sociology that you're interested in and you want me to make a video about it, please leave a comment and I will try my best to research and talk about it. Thank you again, and remember, we cannot change what we are not aware of, but once we are aware, we cannot help but change. Thank you.